Does a new chapter of Denver Nuggets basketball begin this week?
Yes.
Maybe. We're going to talk about that. Also, hangover takes. We're going to talk about Peyton Watson returning to action, possibly as early as this week. And what do the Nuggets need to do? I think there's clarity for every player. Let's talk about their responsibilities. This is DNVR Nuggets. Oh, baby. Oh, best part of my day. You know what?
Is that right?
Best part of my day is this
right?
show. Well, I mean, the rest of my day sucks.
Do you remember?
Like, really sucks.
Are we looking at our conversation while the lounge?
I think so. Oh, here we go. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets Podcast. Presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app and use the code DNVR365 when you sign up. Choose your offer, find out why. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We're also hanging out, three-man game in the very roomy Toyota Lounge.
Dude.
Driven by your front-range Toyota stores. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Look at all this elbow space.
Dude, you know what I'm going to do? Man spread. Look at this.
Nobody wanted
immediate
that.
regret.
Yeah, that was horrible for all of us. We got a great show for you guys lined up, as always, man. It's just fun talking about the Nugs. Up or down, it's fun. Get out of here with, you know what? Take a little lap.
Whoa.
Take a lap around
I just
the track.
said, is it? I didn't say no.
Well, you should know.
You projected your own stuff onto that, man.
Well, I don't know about that one. Brennan Vogt is texting.
No, I was actually tweeting the show out because there's no Harrison. So I was like, oh, I should probably put that out there. You know what I mean? So now the public knows. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in.
Over here, I do have D-Line. He's going to be not a bummer today. He's bringing it up.
What the H, bro?
You're suggestive in how you're asking questions.
I mean, in what way?
Well, not that way. Not that way. Again, that was suggestive in how you responded here.
I know no other way to be suggestive. But listen, guys, the Denver Nuggets are not always fun to talk about, but life is not always fun to talk about. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You got to express feelings that you have covered up, deep, latent feelings that you need to exude, unearth.
And sometimes you shouldn't, though, I feel.
No, I'm not going to talk at all this entire episode.
Like, for example, on this show, I don't need to know about your feelings. We're talking about the Nuggets today. We're off to a great start. I have good energy, good vibe going right now.
Yeah.
The Nuggets, I don't know why. The Nuggets lost last night.
It's not that.
You immediately go into the bummer.
Because, look, man, I know some people will be like, I'm sick of moral victories. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
You know,
it's no way to live your life.
We're all sick of moral victories.
Yeah, we're all sick of them, you guys. Somebody put in the chat before we went live, you know, are you guys still believing in the Nuggets? And I even see in the comments, you guys are fooling yourselves, this or that. And my answer to that is, I still think the Nuggets can be a great team. You have Nikola Jokic.
Dude.
You have good players. They have not gotten over the hump that they need to. They have not proven to us that they can become their best self. They have not instilled confidence in us. And there's no, like, we're not trying to look through anything with rose-colored glasses. In fact, I'm very concerned about the Nuggets. But at the same time, I still believe that they have the talent. When you have Nikola Jokic, you always have a chance. And they have some things going for them that are worth talking about. And it doesn't mean that the things that aren't going well for them aren't major red flags and major concerns for the team. It's just, this is what sports are about, man. There's always time. There's always an opportunity for you to redeem yourself.
Until there's no longer time. Until the clock hits zero, there's always time. That is the fun part about sports. You cannot predict what's going to happen.
Unless it's tied, then they add more time.
Oh, yeah, you can predict that.
Yeah.
But you don't know what's going to happen in the seconds and minutes that follow. The point is that the same people that would tell you that the Nuggets are over, their peak has been shown, they're not simply not good enough, told you that Jamal Murray was done earlier parts of the season. Things change, man, especially in basketball. Like, the thing about the Denver Nuggets is they have not shown us their best punch once, not one time this entire season. There has been either somebody out, somebody not playing well, two guys not playing well together, some sort of extenuating circumstances to where you're like, well, I mean, I guess we got to wait until that. Like,
but we have seen it in pieces,
yes,
right?
Like, we haven't seen their best punch yet, not one time.
Yeah. So we've seen pieces of it, and you always have to ask, well, if you can see all these different pieces, can it come together for you? And there is time for that. I mean, this is the team that came back from down 3-1. In the regular season, honestly, the Nuggets are the 3 seed. The Nuggets have won, 15 out of 20 games. Like, there are these positive things as well. There's just these major negative ones. So the Nuggets have come back from 3-1 twice in a playoff series. They're not at down 3-1 in the regular season.
No. I mean, I've talked about it all
They're
year.
just not up.
I think really the source of consternation and frustration is that they are close and not there. It's not that they have no chance at all.
Totally.
It's not that they're so far away. It's that I think when you start talking about the next best teams after tier 1, I think Denver and probably the Lakers right now lead the conversation.
Yeah.
But it's tier 1. Everyone wants to see them in tier 1. And that hump, right? Getting over that hump, beating the other best teams, that's the kind of stuff that would instill. There's a difference between like believing and hoping they can get it done and really feeling like they're going to.
Totally.
And it's the latter that they haven't been able to instill.
Well, the other thing is we go to Hangover Takes now, and we talk about what happened. You can fire up the Hangover there, Kale. Thank you very much. I'm always on him, man. I didn't have to tell him. But I did it. Didn't stop me from doing it. As you rewatch the game, this one last night, or at least the important part of it, the real takeaway of why Denver lost is they didn't execute in the clutch.
I know, it's crazy.
And they actually played good defense in the clutch, got some stops, did some good things. They didn't execute on the offensive end of the floor in the clutch. And we talked about them MPJ3, which was a huge one. Like, that was just such a wild shot, not his moment. But there were other plays. Russell Westbrook fumbling the pass. There were other plays where Denver got into the clutch situation and just didn't execute. And, maybe that's a storyline that the Nuggets can't execute at the level that they have when they were a championship team. But that's not really my takeaway from that game.
How could it be?
Well, because it is important, I think, every year to reprove that you can be a clutch team.
Don't disagree at all, but it's also something that has been proven in the past. It's the one thing that you're not like, is this theoretically possible?
Right.
You're just like, can you guys come on? Like when I replay that game, mostly in my head, it is just they got themselves into such a deep hole early on by just such confounding decisions, and they allowed the Celtics to just put them into a deep hole to where they fought back admirably. And like if they didn't get off to such a terrible start, they would have won that game.
Yeah.
I agree with the clutch stuff too, though, and I think part of it is this weird. There have been introductions of new characters, and these sort of the carousel of injuries we've had, which is just sort of like,
totally.
Are these 3 separate teams? Is it something that they can layer up? And is it? So I'm not actually just trying to make it all about one player. Just going to give an example, right? Like Westbrook was closing, and
he missed the pass that is an AG pass. That's a rocket pass to AG to Dog.
Oh, that's
exactly it, right? Like you just. One of the advantages the Nuggets have had over the years, and I still think they do, even if it's not quite the razor's edge it once was, is, there are other teams that played with this depth and this freedom that the Nuggets can't touch across 82 games. Some of those very teams are also not so sure what to do in the final 5 minutes. Denver's hierarchy is so determined. They have such a firm understanding of it. It's different when Westbrook is out there. And so it's not even about like Westbrook isn't good enough or anything like that. You hit the nail on the head. That was supposed to be AG. And so there was something to, it is weird that it's March 3rd and there's half of a team that we know so much about, the 4 guys that have been here, and the other half where it's like,
we don't know anything about these guys.
How does this all fit together? And that's a lot of question marks, man, on March 3rd.
You're right.
So that stuff, the late game execution, it can be that it was different personnel. It can be as simple as that. I mean, it should be acknowledged that they didn't have Porzingis or Drew Holiday. Definitely. They could easily say these same exact things. Like, if their guys are there, maybe it's easier for them to score and what have you. But I think that game was just more encouraging than it was discouraging. And I woke up today with a hangover thinking that exact same thing. I don't feel bad about that one. I do feel bad about the Milwaukee one. I do feel bad about the Lakers one.
Yeah.
But that Boston game, to me, showed me a team that wanted to measuring stick game, didn't have Aaron Gordon, and measured up pretty good. I mean, honestly, it wasn't that bad.
Yes, and I felt great about it too because I felt like my theorem was like partially proven, whereby the Celtics got tight in the end and they stopped hitting the shots. And
Except for freaking Derek White.
But
he's the only guy immune to the tightness you're talking about. It's the worst.
But the point being is that Denver then got tight. They blew blew their own like.
You know what? They might have gotten too loose, to be honest. That Mike 3 was the most.
They were
that was
loose.
The least tight.
You're right.
3 of all time.
They got too loose.
It's so not tight.
His left foot was in front of his right.
No, not even a 3.
It was
not even a 3. I said 3.
That was Yeah, that was exquisitely loose.
that was, and this is kind of, we don't have to do a whole mic thing, but.
Why not? What are we doing?
Well, no, just, some people in the comments said like they got to keep it more involved. And I go, to some extent, I agree, but he also has to know where and when to get involved. And that was, I have no idea what my role is in this game. And this fell to me and I'm open. So I guess I shoot. And like that was what was really frustrating.
Bro, I want to hear
it.
your full mic index. Where are we with Mike right now?
I think the public is dead on, man. Like Mike has proven to be a very helpful player to this team. At his best, can help them blow teams out. The spacing and shooting dynamic is nice. If you really want to look at him as like a true third option, he's just got to be better against the best teams. It's the fairest criticism of Mike that there ever was. He does, and it's so that's it for me. I still think like for a team that struggles with spacing, you need him out there, but because of that, and because he's needed out there, and because he's paid like a guy who's needed out there, he needs to play better in these games, and that's just the bottom line right now. And if he doesn't in this postseason, he knows it, I know it, the fans know it. That's that, probably.
I think statement week this season, like I know we're in Remind 'em season, but there's also statement week within Reminder. So it's like the broader book, but then there's a chapter. Well, I think it starts on Sunday, honestly, because that's Oklahoma. You go at Oklahoma City, Minnesota, LA. That's all in 1 week. Those 4 games to me are statements. Like, you told me right now, Oklahoma City and the Lakers and Minnesota all blow them out. Guess what?
Statement week.
But you go in there and get those wins, and it's like, you know what? There it is. Those are, in some ways, it's the white whales of the Denver Nuggets, right? You got to beat the Lakers after they did what they did to you. Oklahoma City's the number 1 team. Minnesota's had your number. So that frames this week, Sacramento and Phoenix at home, as like, this is, you got to get right. You know, you need some momentum going into it.
We talked about the proving stuff. Like, we know what they can do, but to me, I look at it as like their last chance to prove it before the playoffs start to themselves if they need it, and to the fan base who sure does.
Yeah. So I'm kind of excited, obviously, for that. And there's some moving parts that are at play here. Julian Strawther got an MRI today on his knee, so might hold him out. Maybe it's a good excuse just to hold him out. Like, I do think if you're the Nuggets, aren't you a little curious what the team looks like with a different rotation for a while? And maybe it's easy to be like, hey, I know there's no injury, but let's just be safe. Let's hold you out for a week.
Bro, I'm saying.
And and nobody's feelings are hurt. Just like, let's see what happens.
I'm feeling like a little conspiratorial these days. I'm feeling a little conspiratorial, and it might be because Vogt and I got pretty drunk and got in heavy on Luka talk last night.
Okay.
That it's got me spiraling about the NBA as a whole.
Yeah.
And the Denver Nuggets' place within this entire conspiratorial organization.
Are we an extra in the show?
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe. That might be the larger.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Kale's like, here's what I need to know.
Oh, yeah. Conspiracy Corner. Let me hear it. I want to hear it.
Conspiracy Corner. The Denver Nuggets gave everything they had last year to get the number 1 seed, and it turned out to be folly.
Yeah.
Are they not giving their all in these games down the stretch intentionally?
I think that's the big question of the year to some extent, but I think it would be easier for everyone to feel that way if there were more examples of, by the way, here's what it looks like when we do.
What if they're not showing, Kale, give me on the one. What if they're not showing their, guys, how deep does it go? How deep does it go? What temperature do the Nuggets steel melt at?
I don't know that that's it, man.
All right, fine.
I just don't know that that's it. I mean, Jokic has played a lot of minutes this year.
This should be every conspiratorial podcast. Like Joe Rogan's like, well, what? And then someone's like, probably not.
By the way, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's right at all.
Okay, cool. I guess we did land on the moon or whatever.
The Nuggets need some statement wins, and they got a pair of good games coming up here. They do get 3 days off, which is awesome. Or horrible. I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. But then you have Sacramento and Phoenix, 2 winnable games. They're going to be favored in both of them, but at the same time, they both represent. You have to play. You have to do your thing in order to get them. And I just think it sets the stage for a very fun week leading into the ultimate chapter of the season.
Oh, my God, dude.
Statement week.
Dude, how are you ready for this? I personally am not anywhere close to ready for this.
I am, because
look,
my theory on the Nuggets is they play better when the stakes are higher. So part of me goes, yeah, I'm a little more worried about Sacramento and Phoenix than I would just get through those.
Well, that used to be the case, and that's what's weird about this year.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see them actually play up to those teams more.
Yeah.
After it's over, who is it? Who is M after this?
We're going to find out. On the other side, we're going to talk about the lack of two-way players on the roster and Peyton Watson returning to the lineup. Where should he slot in? How important is he? What do we expect from him? Talk about that on the other side.
I can't wait to find out.
I've been telling you guys I've been walking to work. It's a new thing for me.
First I've heard of this.
Look, I don't just say it just to annoy you guys. It's also...
You say it to annoy others as well.
That's right. I do it to annoy those listening at home as well. All jokes aside, going for a walk is a wonderful thing to do. It can clear out your mentals. It's good for your physicals, and it's just so easy. And it's also easy to forget. And when I walk to work, what I've done is I've built that into my routine. It's good exercise, but also, honestly, trying to clear your head. What is your big takeaway? What is your hangover take? Not just the emotions you've been feeling. No, about the Nuggets, actually, in this example. Maybe in life too, right? Many of the greatest thinkers in Western civilizations have said, go for a walk. Just go for a walk. Don't feel well, go for a walk. And you know what? They probably do that in the East too. I don't know why I specify. Walking is a universal concept, but it's good for you. Being healthy is good for you. To learn more about living like there is a tomorrow, go to uchealth.org for more info. UC Health, live extraordinary. It's important to them that it's important to you. So go ahead and take care of yourself so you can be your very best self. How about that?
I've been walking to work as well. You see how joyful I am? I've insulted way fewer of my coworkers today than I normally do.
Okay,
right?
And now it's time to talk about Shady Rays, where they build sunglasses that are built to last. They build sunglasses that look great, but they also build sunglasses that don't cost nearly as much as they look like, which is my favorite part. With Shady Rays, there's no risk when you shop because of their great return policy and because they have so many awesome options for you, man. So check out Shady Rays. It's an independent sunglasses company offering a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Shades have durable frames, crystal clear optics, making them the perfect choice for all the outdoor adventures. The sun is shining in our great Colorado state here. It's sunny again, man.
It's going to be shining for the rest of the year.
Right? No other rain or sun at all. No,
I mean, if it arrives, it'll blow over quick.
The sun is coming back out, though. So get those Shady Rays, man. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Alrighty, we're back here, segment 2. Peyton Watson, I expect to return this week. We should have practice tomorrow. We'll probably hear some kind of update with the team, and I'm sure he'll be asked about. I'm sure we'll find out more, but I expect him to be back, if not Wednesday, Friday, but I expect him to be back Wednesday. And I think it's right on time because with Julian Strawther exiting the road, going out with an injury, I do think it's a great opportunity.
Do we have any update on that?
No, the MRI was today, so tomorrow we'll probably get some kind of update on it. But even if he's fully healthy, I will say that Michael Malone in his post-game commentary talked about how they think they avoided anything serious. Good. He said, we were all real worried about it, but from talking to everyone, I don't think it's anything serious.
Okay.
But nonetheless, it's an opportunity, like a hyperextension or something like that, a great opportunity just to say, hey, man, let's try other guys out. Peyton Watson's back in the lineup. If he's back Wednesday, that already gives you a replacement, so it's not like you're changing anything. I think Jalen Pickett's been playing well. But here's one of the problems I think the Nuggets have. They have a lack of guys who are foolproof on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
You have guys who can play defense against anybody. You have guys who can match up against specific types, but not all types. You have guys who can score in some ways, but not all. And you have guys who can score in all ways. But you don't have the mix of those. And I think if we were to rank the two-way players on the roster, who do you think is the number one two-way player?
Christian Braun.
You think Christian Braun is the most?
What are you talking about? I was talking about something else. Yeah, yes, Christian Braun.
Ahead of Aaron Gordon.
Kind of, just based on the season alone.
There's honestly a strong argument for it. Statistically,
there is a strong argument for it from this season because AG hasn't been that strong.
What are we talking about?
I still think AG, though, I still think it's AG.
Okay. I mean, that's fair, obviously.
But Christian Braun, if you were going off of just this year.
Those are your two answers, though.
Those are your two answers. Who is the third most two-way player on the roster?
Russell Westbrook?
But again, he can be a anchor offensively with his shooting if it's in a certain.
Is it Zeke Naji?
No, because Zeke can definitely be an anchor offensively. We can't.
Is he?
Yes,
knocked
come
down
on,
every 3-point shot I've seen the last week.
Oh yeah, the last week, but the previous.
I don't even know who the answer is here to number 3.
It might be Jokic, but
Yeah.
obviously we know Jokic's not there defensively every night.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after that, I mean, you're really starting to squint because everybody else.
Brother, Jalen Pickett comes up real quick.
I actually had Pickett
He
on
does.
the list
He
here.
comes
'cause I
up
was
pretty
like,
quick on the list.
It's not that he's particularly high at
every
either
time
end of
the
the floor,
list,
but
it's
he's
about
even.
the list.
His offense and defense is
Every
even.
time Adam makes a list, it's just a default template, and Pickett's at number 4.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
always right
just-
there, man.
Whatever it
He's
is.
always right
In the
there.
conversation.
He's in the conversation. But my point is, you have to really squint, and we could argue for an hour who the third most two-way player is.
I agree.
And that's a really difficult thing. I think if the Nuggets are pressed to pick, there are going to be moments to go in each direction. But I think if you're forced to pick, you got to count on the Murray Jokic offense to carry you.
Yes.
And that means you have to count on your defensive players to
Yes.
carry you and the rest. So to me, I look at that and I go, Peyton Watson, I don't think is as bad offensively as he has shown. I think he has more to give than what he has shown. It's hard to get over the hump in the NBA when you don't have a long leash. You don't have a clearly defined thing. But I think he's a very good defender. And I think the Nuggets could really use it. So if I'm going into a playoffs and we're compromised one way or the other, which way do we go? Defense, and that means Peyton Watson has to be a huge piece of this. It's why I've advocated for him all year.
It's why this injury has stunk. Silver lining to Zeke, which is awesome, right? But
Yeah.
Peyton Watson has needed every minute to develop because
Yes.
you wanted to feel as close as you could to he is a two-way player in a playoff environment. And
So right.
as a young player who's still raw on that end, who did miss extended time, that's tough, puts him behind the 8 ball a little bit. I would have questions about Peyton in a
the
half
8
court
ball.
offense, but I wish I didn't because to me,
Dude.
it's no question that they need his defense. So that to me has been it's awesome seeing Z play so well, but it's been brutal not having Peyton play in these, especially in some of these more important games, because he just needs to be comfortable for them to be their best selves.
They are operating under such the narrowest of margins. We know what the plan is, and the plan includes Peyton Watson. If they lose the services of any of these guys that they're hoping to cultivate to get up to the level they need them to, and they lose out on development time, specifically Peyton Watson, who was averaging 2 points in college. It came into the league when he was a fetus, and he just makes so many ridiculous young guy mistakes, and he's starting to get it, and then he goes out, and then has been the case with him in the past. The clock kind of starts over, and you're man, it feels like he kind of forgot everything. Now he's trying too hard or whatever. All of that is just maturation. That's all wisdom. That's all experience, and you can't fake that, and you cannot. There's no other way to get that knowledge than to acquire it through play on the court. So this sucks.
Yeah.
This timing is horrific.
But I think Denver has to invest in Peyton in these last 21 games. There's only 21 games.
Absolutely.
And to me, I just look at it and I go,
That's the magic
because
number.
everybody's going to say he needs to make his shots. And I agree. He has to. I thought Christian Braun, one of the things we didn't really talk about, 24 points is awesome. He took 22 shots to get there.
Yeah.
That's not very efficient. I think a lot of players would get 24 points if they were given 22 shots. I'm not trying to knock him. I'm saying the three-point shooting is so important that he just got to make them. Peyton Watson, it's going to be the exact same thing, and I have less confidence that Peyton's going to hit him than I do of Christian even. But I think Peyton has other skills that are just untapped, and he can handle the ball. He does have some good, nice passes. You don't want him as your first or second option, but I do think that to unlock that player, you have to be willing to experiment a little bit with his initiating things off of a dribble handoff or a pick and roll and giving him basic reads to make that then lead to more complex reads down the road. But if you just stick him in the corner and try to have him shoot threes, I think it's man, he's not going to hit him.
It is a little bit of you're playing Charlotte, Christian can dribble. You're playing Boston, and here's their playoff defense, and it's that's just a different kind of thing to navigate. But that's why I think the regular season matters. That's why it's not.
It does matter.
Well, I think Denver actually is in this really particularly good position to highlight this dynamic of a team that if they use the regular season the way they needed to, they can finish as a form of a team that's a contender. But they didn't start the season as one. right? It's like the regular season has mattered to Denver, and for these reasons. And we heard Dagnott in OKC talking about how like he tried the two bigs one game, not because of the matchup, but because it would be irresponsible not to explore it. So you do got to spend 82 games trying some of this stuff.
Definitely.
And it's that's part of the conversation and not just minutes played. It's like when we go back to last year and we go, oh, it was just the starters. Not just that they played every second, but it was just Jokic and Murray pick and roll. It's like, yeah, we know that works.
Yeah.
Spend 82 games figuring out what else works.
Yeah, the thing with Peyton is that, what am I, you? He's just a ball player. Like, he just plays ball, man. He's got athleticism.
He plays hard.
He's got gifts that are not fully cultivated, and they haven't been pointed in the right direction, but he's just like has so much raw ability. And so, yeah, you like want to see what the ceiling of this guy can be in so many different ways. And that only reveals itself through playing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think they have to commit to him because it's not just playing. As we've seen with Zeke, there's also this confidence. And yes, players have to have their own confidence. They have to build it. But there is something to your coach and your team buying into you. And I just, at this late in the season,
in a team dynamic, your team has to be with you. You know, you can't fight against your team and get confidence that way. Like, you have to know that everyone believes in you.
But at the same time, sometimes you have to prove it to your team. Like,
sure.
you know what I mean? And, and that's what I was just trying to make the caveat on. But yes, I just think the team needs to commit to, hey, man, our defense is not good enough for the playoffs. And it's not going to be with certain personnel. We need Peyton to work, so we need to spend these games figuring it out. And if I look at it, your rotation right now, your starting five is set. I don't think you should mess with that. Hopefully Aaron Gordon's back. I think it's good. Westbrook off the bench is set. I think P. Watt and Zeke Naji round out your bench rotation. And from there, maybe you go to DeAndre Jordan. Maybe you go to Pickett. Maybe you go to Julian. And I would say in that order, personally. At this point in the season, especially if Julian's out for a little bit, that's how I would look at this is Westbrook, P. Watt, and Zeke give you three guys that play with a lot of energy, three guys you can believe can defend.
Yeah.
And is the offense going to be ugly in the half court? Absolutely. But guess what? That's the team.
Yeah.
That's the team. Maybe you stagger Mike with them. Maybe you stagger AG. Maybe you stagger Jamal. Give them something that can hopefully give you an identity. But commit to those three because you're going to commit to athleticism, hard work, and defense.
It's important to remember that this collection of players is not haphazard. Like, it's put together with a vision of how the team should function. And we just haven't really been given the opportunity to see it do that. You know, it's like that's right. Like, they drafted in the previous draft, not the last one, but the one before, and in this one, defensive-minded players. Like, that was kind of the angle that they were taking. Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, like, that's what they hoped those guys would be. And it's like they're starting to pay dividends, sort of, but that's still like obviously that's where this team sucks. They suck at defense. And so they need the investments that they've made on that side of the ball to pay dividends.
Yeah. And then lastly, not that this is where your thought is because you're in the middle of a season, but who has a higher trade value right now, Julian Strawther or Peyton Watson?
It's a good question. I think Peyton.
I think it's almost certainly him. He's younger.
The only argument is like, is there just something to just looking at Julian is like, this guy could score 14, 15 points per game in the league one day.
Is Tim Conley the one you're trading?
Yeah. That's exactly it.
I still think it's Peyton. And then I would say, like, if you invested heavily in one of those guys, who do you think could raise their trade value the most between now and the end of the playoffs?
I mean, it's definitely Peyton.
Because if he plays well,
I mean, Peyton's. Well, first off,
who's
he's further
guard
along.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander right now on the Nuggets?
Exactly.
You know?
And plus, he's also further along in his development. He's been around here longer, playing more games, but he also has, like, he doesn't have the biggest. Julian Strawther has the biggest deficiency in his game.
Yeah. So I just look at it and say, this is an important moment in time for the Nuggets, but I'm not confident that Malone's going to treat it that way.
Yeah,
Peyton Watson did not start. You remember he had the hamstring pull in camp and did not start the season very well at all. It was a little scary. AG went out, he started, and that's when he got his rhythm. Shocker, playing with Jokic, he got a little rhythm going. But I look at this and I go, the Nuggets have Sacramento coming up and then Phoenix. How do I think Peyton's going to play if he plays Wednesday and Friday? Probably bad. But you got to stick with them.
Yeah,
you got to stick with them. Like, you got to get over this hump.
Listen to Nikola Jokic. It takes 20 games to come back from injury.
I hope it doesn't take 20 for him.
It's gonna.
He didn't miss 20 games.
That would be the rest of the season.
That would be the rest of the season.
No, hold on to your butts, fellas.
I don't think it'll take that long. It didn't take that long when he missed the equal amount of time with his hamstring thing. It was like 4 games.
I mean, I want to believe that also. I just am bracing myself for it to take longer.
Sure, I get
I
that.
would really hone in on these next 2 games might be tough, but you get to Oklahoma City, and guess what, man? Make an impact on Shea.
Yep.
Give us some reason to believe that we have somebody we could stick on him and slow him down just a little bit.
We need so little to buy in.
So little to buy in, man.
We do need something.
Let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to go through all the key players and talk about has it become clear what the team needs from them and what things they do well that the team just doesn't need and they have to sacrifice. We'll talk about that on the other side.
The Breckenridge Distillery, the highest distillery in all the land.
We had some of this last night, remember?
It's really good, man. Whenever I go to a whiskey joint, a bar where that's kind of their deal in Denver, I get excited, and then I'm going to ask for the menu, and then I go, wait, do you have Breck? Like, do you have Breck bourbon? Any kind? I'm in. It's really, really good. It's also the official bourbon and vodka of the Denver Broncos, so you can look for their Broncos bourbon blends to hit the shelves. And the distillery is great. Great tasting room. Shout out my guy, Matt. Great customer service. Talked me through all of it. Really easy to understand. Priced, I think, reasonably. And it all tastes great. Man, it was cold up there in Breck until I did a little bourbon tasting. Warmed me right up, fellas. Use code DNVR at checkout for free shipping on all orders over $99. Learn more at BreckenridgeDistillery.com. Hey, how about Bet365 where it's never ordinary?
I'd love to hear more about it.
Well, it's a place where you can bet, but it's that just sounds a little too ordinary. You know what I mean? It's
not for me.
It's never ordinary there. They want you to be able to bet on any moment, right? They are the pioneers of live betting, which is of course a big part of the betting game now. Could thank Bet365 for that. And
nothing makes you feel smarter than when your team is down and you're like, I don't believe this. Not only am I going to let all of you know that you're wrong in your doubt, I'm going to profit off of it by placing a live bet.
It's the best, man. It's the absolute best.
Unless it doesn't work.
Yeah. Honestly, most of my live wins are when the Celtics are down. I hate to say it, but I'm like, I know how this ends. They also have tons of early payout offers and custom boosts, like the DNVR custom boosts on Denver-related bets, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Go ahead and download the Bet365 app. Use code DNVR365 when you sign up. Deposit $10. Place a bet of $5 or more to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be placed on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we are back here, segment 3 of the DNVR Nuggets podcast. By the way, we have our takeover on Friday. I think there are 13 tickets left.
What?
To watch the takeover with us, ride the party bus, sit together in the stands.
Yeah, this isn't the sweet one. It's not sweet prices. It's
regular prices. Yeah. But this one, absolutely get in on, man. Your Friday. I just gave you your plans for Friday. Phoenix Suns. They suck.
Oh, my God, dude.
Friday night, you go to the DNVR bar, you have dinner, it's a late
feast.
game, you go there, everybody has a great time, and then afterwards you come back to the bar, have a drink, and then hop on this very couch, or actually not this very couch, probably that one over there, and you give us your hot takes. It's a great time every time. I've never heard a bad review of the takeover.
They're the best events, and even the last one was a tough result. Nuggets didn't play well.
That's right. They got
and
murdered.
honestly, everyone was still awesome. Great mood. They had such a great time. And it's cool for us. Like, we see your names in the chat. We see you on Twitter. When we get to meet you, we really enjoy it. So come through, come meet the other Nuggets fans and make this go from an online community to a very, very real one.
Yeah. All right, segment 3 here. So what do players need to do? At this point in the season, there should be clarity on what everyone's role is, or at least working towards that. And I'm going to start with Jamal Murray. He's the headline topic here. I think Jamal Murray gets, in many ways, has to sacrifice the least of anyone on the team.
Definitely.
Nikola Jokic is the best player, so he should get a lot of things tailored towards him. Jamal Murray, his role, the only thing that I think he hasn't done right now, he has to bring his own energy. To me, this is the number one thing for Jamal.
Yeah.
And you watch him in the locker room after the game, getting interviewed by Katie Wingy, and he was asked about like the first half, and he goes, I was in foul trouble. That's the only difference. I didn't get to do it. BS, man. I'm going to call BS on it. BS. Got to learn to play around that. That was not the difference. I do know that that's a challenge. Being in foul trouble makes things a little bit difficult. He's getting posted up. He can't reach. I get that part of it. But there was a different energy to him in the second half, and it's not the first game. It's not the second. It's probably not the 100th time we have seen him come out flat in a game, and then all of a sudden they get behind and locks in, and you're like, where is this guy all the time?
Yep.
The Nuggets are not good enough. They don't have enough two-way players, and there's too many guys that are counting on him for their own survival in this league. He has to be a four-quarter player, a consistent four-quarter player that brings it offensively in particular every single night. And as good as he has been over this stretch, he has still not been that.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. He is obviously the one. He's the guy with the ball in his hands. Except for last game where they started off with Russell Westbrook with the ball in his hands and it all fell apart.
And that was another obstacle that I'll acknowledge for him. That was another thing that gave him difficulty, but it doesn't matter. This team doesn't have a perfect setup for him.
I don't disagree at all. I think it's fair, most certainly, to look at both he and Nikola Jokic as the guys that need to be the straw that stirs the drink every single time. It would be nice if the Nuggets sort of felt like if one side, like the complete team effort of the Denver Nuggets is like if Jamal doesn't have it going, then other parts of the offense start to pick it up. But I don't disagree with the premise. Like he is in a position where he can affect the game directly in ways that guys that aren't on the ball cannot. So it should be, because I agree, like he came out and it was like, all right. And he started running with the ball.
In the second half?
There was very clear, like, I am charging into this game. It seemed like maybe he was trying to feel it out early or something.
Great words. So I was just going to bring up, Malone brought this up recently when asked about what goes into these great Murray nights and what he likes the most. And he says it's that he doesn't feel the game out.
Yeah,
that he doesn't wait, that he just gets after it. And because it does, the thing about Murray is when he's really good, you're like, yeah, man, you can do that. Do you know what I mean? Like you didn't walk backwards into this. Feels actually more under your control at times. And there is something too. We've asked these guys not to throw themselves at the season and exhaust themselves. Sure, fair enough. But with Murray, you just kind of, sometimes it feels like a choice. And you're like, man, just make the choice sooner because you're really good.
The other thing that's awesome for everybody.
You're so good. You're so good when you do.
It's just so important for him. And to be honest with you, it is an act of leadership to just bring it every single moment of every single game.
It's maturation.
It's maturation. And this
matriculation.
And this is just like the Nuggets need it. Like it would be nice if the Nuggets margin for error was so great that everyone could hold on to one vice. You know, one thing. Like, I don't always bring my own energy. But
like the Celtics and the Cavs, they're like, what if we just shot this ridiculous shot?
Yeah, and we got a lot of guys like, Drew Holiday wasn't that good tonight, but Derek White was this. The Nuggets just don't have that, especially
not
at the
currently.
top. You have Jamal Murray, heavy as the head that wears the crown. He is the number 2 guy. Things are tailored to him. He just has to bring it. So to me, that's the number 1. And by the way, if we go through some numbers, it's kind of interesting. Here's the crazy thing about Jamal. If you go per 36, 2018, he averaged 19 points a game. 2019, 20. Then 20.6, 21.5, 21.9. This year, 21.4. It's the most consistent. Now, last year, I skipped over. He has 24.2 per 36. That's a big bump. But that means that 5 out of the last 6 years, he's been within a point per 36 minutes of the same average. And it's like, you know what? Unfortunately, this year, the Nuggets need you 4 quarters, 21 more games out of the year.
We're mad. Right. We're like, we need to be consistent. He's like, I'm the most consistent player in the NBA.
We're like, yeah, but not in that way. Be consistent.
It's a different consistent, but it is funny.
Consistent. And that's kind of what I was getting at with Mike too, right? Like when they won their title, it kind of was enough that he just spaced the floor a lot. But now it's like the team needs to get better.
Yeah.
And so I think Jamal and Mike are the 2 most talented players that could in theory, but you haven't. Neither of those guys just in a regular season have gone, here's my big leap. You know? You just haven't seen it.
I think if we go to Christian Braun, I think of all the players on the Nuggets roster, maybe including Jokic, but maybe not including Jokic, he might have done his job the most so far this year.
Christian Braun? Oh my God, dude.
But there are 2 things that I think are actually more important than all of the good stuff he does. Number 1 is defend. Again, Denver doesn't have a lot of defenders. Christian does have an offensive responsibility that obviously that taps into this. He played 47 minutes the other night. He's got a lot on his plate. But for them to win in the playoffs, he also has to cancel somebody out. Yes. He has to bring that level of defense. And the second thing is he does have to make threes. And that's why Yoke gets his 3 ball ready for the playoffs. He starts going, I kind of hope Christian picks his spots to work on his three ball. Oh, I could drive here. Typically I drive, but I need to be ready to knock down this corner three. Shooting 36% in the playoffs, I just think he's going to have a lot of games where he gets 8 threes, and it's going to come down to whether he makes 2 or 4 of them.
Oh, we've already seen this. We've seen this. Like, the league has solved the Denver Nuggets because they can double Nikola Jokic. And so the Lakers have figured this out, and the Bucks have figured this out. And it really just comes down to that's not true, but we do need to have guys that can make hay when that sun is shining. Like, you're going to be open because your guy is on Nikola Jokic. You need to be able to make them pay for that. So they stop doing that, and then Jokic is a little bit more free to move around. I don't trust Christian Braun to ever be that guy specifically, but I agree with you. Like, he has improved in every other way. Maybe not defensively. He's been good defensively. That's the one thing, man. Like, I want there to be a game where we're like, man, we locked so-and-so up.
And this is where Christian Braun, I think, because he's been such a two-way player, again, not a bad thing. In the playoffs, I do think it's going to be, can you shut down, not shut down, can you slow down this guy? Maybe it's the Houston Rockets.
Yes.
Can you slow down Amen Thompson or Jalen Green?
Right, and you're not just going to be able to score 20 points a game by just filling in the cracks against a lazy defense. Like, it's the best way that you can contribute is doing this.
Yep.
But look, there's no doubt about it. Like, Christian's had moments, but this happens to every defensive specialist that gets more on their plate offensively. You know, it is hard to be a two-way elite player.
Like Torrey Craig was at his height, did a lot of what Christian Braun is doing. Pushing the pace, shooting threes fairly unreliably, but also like reliably enough that you weren't wincing every time he shot it. But, you know, like, we do need a little bit more from Christian Braun, which is crazy because he has, like, we were talking about this before the show, like, he by all rights should be, if not leading the idea, the conversation for most improved player should most assuredly be in the top 2 or 3. Like,
he's
that guy
third now, by the way.
That guy has improved his play to such a degree where it's like, I cannot believe that I said out loud into a microphone that I would trade him for Dario Saric, which I said last year.
This is awesome because you didn't even need that to get Saric, who is not playing.
We don't know exactly what that looks like. That's the thing.
That is true. We don't know. Michael Porter Jr., I think, actually,
the worst take ever delivered on this show.
Michael Porter Jr. maybe has the easiest one here. And I know we talked about how exciting it was at different portions of the season where he was doing some different things, getting to the rim, doing all this stuff. I actually think Michael Porter is one of the guys that almost needs to reduce the number of things. He needs to make threes.
Shoot it, baby.
He needs to make threes. Like, it was fun with this idea of, like, he can turn the corner now. Mike needs to make threes.
Yeah.
Because the Nuggets so desperately need him to make those threes.
He's the only guy that can keep the defense honest. And so, like, as much as I love against bad teams, if he's 1 of 5, he starts ducking in and cutting and all that. Like, if teams are doing the anyone but Jokic defense, like, you can't do that. Like, you gotta stay out there and you gotta shoot them and you gotta shoot them confidently.
To be clear, I like his cuts. I'm just saying there was some of the off the dribble stuff and it's like
I'm saying what I'm saying. Yeah,
do whatever you do confidently.
I'm saying that it can't be this wholesale switch of like the three's not working. I'm just gonna hang out in the paint.
Right.
Because sometimes he does, and sometimes it clogs stuff up.
Yeah.
When it's just Jokic and 3 guys.
Make threes, man.
Yeah, like in the playoffs, man. If you're open, shoot, brother. Just shoot. There were a couple that would have been wild shots for anyone else where he tried to make the right play, and it was out of rhythm, and it was a dumb pass. It's like, brother, you were open, just shoot. You're the only guy on this team that has that light.
It is wild. I guarantee if we went back and watched the watch along, which I would never do, but I'm sure that there are times where we're like, shoot it, Mike, God damn it, shoot it.
Right.
I think I screamed really loud when he took that one long two, though, at
Well,
the
we
end.
all
I
did.
think I was
positive.
I collapsed on the ground.
The greatest thing about us doing watch-alongs is that we forget we're on camera, and then you see the true nightmare human beings that we are.
Animals, creatures. The other thing for Mike, and look, this is a low bar. He's got to defend better. I think just like Yoke, Mike's defense requires an enormous amount of effort, and I think that in the regular season, they both give certain levels. I don't think Mike's a great defender, but he is better than what he's shown. So
Way
to
better
me,
than this.
make threes, defend at a higher level. It's time. Like, see if you can do that. And all that other stuff is like as
strong agree.
as you feel it, but
He's been
reduce
playing
your
kind of
game.
lazy, and
He
that is something you can work through laziness. If you're just a kind of a procrastinator, like a lot of the Denver Nuggets are, they like wait until the heat gets hot, and then they're like, "All right, fine, all right, I'll give the effort, fine."
No, but I look 2 years ago, Mike was honestly fine on defense. He had worked his way to a fine place. And even in terms of isolation, like he was not the guy they tried anymore. He's fallen off a cliff from that point 2 years ago, in my opinion. He's better than this defensively. I know he's not an all-defense player, but
it's that time.
It's like, that time. He's got
stop exploring. Everybody stop exploring. Reduce it down to these things.
It's good for development, but some of these guys, when it gets to winning time, pare it down. Pare it down.
Aaron Gordon's an interesting one. Let me let you go first. What do you think the most important thing now is for him? He's the tough one because we haven't seen him very much this year.
Yeah, there's one box I'd really like to see AG check that we haven't seen, and that's defense. Personally,
that was my number one.
If he just should be the first or second best defender in a versatile way on this roster. Luka, Cat, who's in the East now, but just in the past, right? Like, yeah, that would be an Aaron Gordon matchup. That would be an Aaron Gordon matchup. That has not been a factor this year, and I understand his body has largely let him down. So I'm leaving room for understanding that. But it needs to happen. You want to talk about the three offensive guys looking so much worse defensively. Well, part of the plan is to have Aaron Gordon there, man. And he hasn't been. So for me, obviously take and make your open threes. The shot looks a little better, but it's defense to me is the number one thing I could see.
With this schedule coming up, I mean, you would love to see Aaron Gordon guard KD for a stint. You'd love to see him guard. Maybe it's DeRozan for a little bit. You know, like there's some guys coming up. You get to Oklahoma City, J-Dub, you know, maybe Chet for a little while. Like Minnesota has Anthony Edwards maybe as a task he takes on, or Julius Randle or something. AG needs to, just like Christian Braun, we need a little reminder and a little momentum of, oh, that's right, we have this guy who actually can be a shutdown guy. Yeah. Because we haven't seen it this year.
I got to say, man, it kind of feels like we're kind of like the messy part of the season for the Nuggets because things are they're really not going or coming together for them very well right now. But it kind of feels like everything is sort of converging on the end of the season. Like guys' timelines of getting better, being out, like it kind of feels like it's coming together, hopefully at the right time, maybe not too late. Pray it's not too late. But I actually, if I look at it from a top-down view, I'm like, this might work.
Yeah.
You know?
You're talking yourself into it right now? Look, man, you don't need a lot of it. I'm telling you don't need a lot of it. You just need to see it for a little stretch here. The other thing Aaron Gordon has to do, in my opinion, is bully. And I've talked about this before. I think the Nuggets have an athletic deficit compared to most championship teams.
Agree.
They're not very athletic. Well, part of athleticism is strength. Aaron Gordon is both athletic, but also at his best, he forces other teams to consider who they were sticking on him. Oh, we have a stretch four that we like to play. Sorry, he can't guard Aaron Gordon. So you have to change it up now. Aaron Gordon needs to defend, and he needs to bully again. And there was a little window there. It was like 3 or 4 games where he was starting to bully.
Oh, yeah.
And then he went out.
I do hold out hope. Worth noting, he's out right now with the left ankle sprain.
Yeah,
he came back from the All-Star break, was not wearing the right calf sleeve, and was bullying. So I hold out hope maybe he feels a little better, but obviously it's really frustrating to immediately pick up another one.
Well, he's got Trey Lyles coming to town. Bully him.
Yeah, dude, which seems doable.
Being very doable.
Do it
bully him.
Just do it emotionally.
Emotionally bully him.
He's got a very fertile plant to work with. He's Canadian. He used to be on this team.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a baby face. You know what I mean?
I'm going to go to Nikola Jokic next. This was a tough one. I think number one is defend. Mm-hmm. You know, Yoke, I understand why he gives the level of defense he gives for most of the season. I think he has shown in the playoffs that he can level this up. I think the Nuggets need it right now. They're going to need it for the home stretch where it's like, just like you warm up your 3-ball for the playoffs, warm up playing defense at that level because it's required. And maybe that takes a little bit of the offense out of him. Maybe he's a little fatigued. Maybe Denver has to get smart with resting him at key moments. But I don't want to not know what this team looks like in the playoffs when he plays defense hard.
For sure.
You don't want to go into game one and be like, well, he hasn't done it all year, but tonight he does it. Now everybody's out of rhythm. His defense, I think it's time to dial it up.
The worst part about this season is that last season, remember they were like scuffling and we were like, ugh, what is this team? And then they flipped a switch. They did this the year before. They
sent a text message.
And then they fell apart, though. That's the
problem. Then they broke, yeah.
That's the problem, is that they actually got on route and they got up 20 points and they really did have enough to win, but they I don't know. I guess they if you ask them, they all got tired. But we know that this team has a goddamn switch. It is so frustrating to be on this side of it and not know for sure if they still have it or not, but like not being able to rule out that they do. But a lot of that stuff is like that defensive stuff is switch stuff. Like that's like, you're right. Like you want to see it because it makes you feel good. But I don't know, like, does Jokic need to be reminded of how he can play defense? Probably not. Like, he knows.
Yeah, but that team needs to know.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
You're
little
not,
bit
I mean,
of-
you're not wrong. Like, you're not wrong. It's just like, how worried do you get when the guys that have been there before are there again?
Do you have something else for Yoke?
No, I mean, defense. And then a thing that I also think he knows and will do, which is just a large handful of those doubles might just have to be shot over.
Yeah.
But-
pick your spots to do that.
But I feel firmly that is something that goes up 5 to 10% in the postseason, and he's choosing consciously not to right now.
Let's go to Russell Westbrook.
Oh, boy.
I think of all the guys who have something they have to zero in on, his is by far the toughest.
For sure.
I think Russell Westbrook has to understand what he brings to this team and what he doesn't. What he brings to it is an energy when he's on the court, an incredible passer, guy that can get into the rim, a very good two-man partner with Jokic, one of the best we've ever seen. What he doesn't bring to this team is the scoring of his previous eras. He is not a shooter, and the game can become a little too Russ-centric, especially when Jokic not on the court, in a way that he has to be able to adjust his game. And I give him a bit of a pass here. He is coming off of the injury. He is trying to reacclimate, and he was starting when he went out. Now he's off the bench. Like there is some things there. But when we talk about what makes a team win, everybody has to sacrifice. Murray has to sacrifice the least in a lot of ways. Russ has to sacrifice the most in a lot of ways because some of the stuff that he does at a high level don't work on this team because there's no space.
Right.
But there are still things he does that really matter. And Russ, like, all the Russ haters say the same thing. He can't adjust. He can't adjust. He can't adjust.
Is that what I say?
There were moments throughout this portion of the season where it felt like he was adjusting.
Yeah.
Totally adjusted.
And this is a point in time where it's like, Russ, there's something you bring to this team that is so sorely needed. And there's a lot that is baggage. Can you bring the things that are needed and cut the baggage? And maybe that means you don't get 17 shots because the team's not guarding you.
Totally.
Figure out another way.
Figure out another way. Or it's because you're coming off the bench and the ball's in your hands and you're not a corner guy and you're running a pick and roll. Because I actually think while teams have turned up the Jokic defense, I think teams have been daring Westbrook to shoot all year.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
earlier in the year, he was doing this thing where he just barreled downhill anyway. You give me all the space, I'm going right into your body, and I'm going to create a unique passing angle and give it to the guy with the best hands that we've ever seen. And that actually was a brilliant strategy. And right now, off the ball, right now, not all year, right now, it's shooting his way through it. That's not going to work. So part of it may be like, it's awesome what is brought to the table from you in this role against Charlotte, but against Team X, you're playing 9 minutes tonight or 10 minutes, and it's do these 3 things only.
Yep.
And that's, I think, the stuff everyone's slightly holding their breath a little worried about with Russ. And I think that's fair because as good as he's been in this role, he's been a great signing. That has been what's happened to him in the postseason in the last 3 years.
Man, the tough thing about his role is that it was at its like most effective when it was just he and Jokic operating together. But it's never going to be that again. Like he's going to have to figure out how to do it with Jamal Murray in tow, whether or not they decide it's worthwhile. And I think that was the theorem that they were working off of last night is that, okay, we're going to go with Russ and Jokic to be the head of the spear to start off with. We're going to get that 2-man dynamic that we enjoyed so much earlier in the season that was like so effective. And then when that starts to waver, then Jamal Murray will start to go on and attack. And it just did not work at all. And it wasn't effective in any way. But they didn't play 2-man game. Like Russ was just hanging out from beyond the arc, which is like the worst place for him to be. Puts him in the worst position. He has to make the most uncomfortable decisions because he wants
thing we were glad they weren't doing.
Exactly.
It's the exact thing we were hyped on.
Yeah, like because he's open and he has a 3-point shot in front of him. He likes to shoot threes, and he's not always terrible. But it's like, bro, that we can't have you be that for us. That can't be it.
Yeah.
So it's a weird position because I don't know what else I don't know how else it works.
Man, sometimes you just have a tough role, and like, can you accept it? And I think Russ has a tough role. Like,
and Chet, Malone too. A lot of this is going to be on Malone.
Well, he's my last one, and we got to go quickly. He's only got 5 minutes here, but for me, Michael Malone, in my opinion, he's got to give confidence, and he's got to play Peyton Watson and potentially Jalen Pickett. I think Strother's had the longest leash. I think Zeke Naji, Peyton Pickett all have roles to play on this team, or potentially have roles, and you have to play him, man. I just think you have to give minutes to Zeke Naji. He's going to have a bad game. Zeke hasn't had a bad game in a while.
No,
he's going to have one, and it's going to come at a tough time. You got to stick with these guys.
Yes.
You got to give them confidence because the Nuggets don't have enough guys. I think that's Michael Malone's challenge here, and be hard on your team.
Yeah.
Be tough on him, man. Demand a lot of Jamal, of Russ, of Aaron Gordon, because it's that time that I think he has to. Coaches don't want their voice to get tired, so they'll sometimes take
they wait.
They wait. But it might be time to start pressing a little bit more.
And do you have the cachet to not? By the way, Russ so far has been great in terms of doing what he's been asked to do, but it's just that's a former MVP in the playoffs. Like, and there will be a moment where it's probably on Malone to either not play him in position X or to remind him not to do thing Y, and that's like. We know a lot of lesser coaches don't do that with guys of that level, and they struggle to get it done. So, Malone will have a lot of say in how Westbrook is deployed, and I think has a big hand in whether that's a success or not.
Let's go to some super chats. Kale, did the homie super chat today?
Can we talk? Did you get the? Bring up the. Listen, guys. This is a cause that's near and dear to my heart. I don't want any of you to get pinched this year.
Bro, too many people have been getting pinched out there.
I don't want a single one of you. I care about everyone that's watching, everyone on this set. If you walk out on St. Patrick's Day without a green shirt and you get pinched, I don't know what to say. Like, we have given you pinch protection right here. A whole new collection of St. Patty's Day. I drew a drunken leprechaun that's in a green beer.
I almost wore this today to model it, but it's way too close to a Celtics loss. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just couldn't do it.
It's a leprechaun that is extolling the virtues of being day drunk. We have
very virtuous.
Yeah, we have drinking a beer that's also talking about how dope it is to get day drunk.
Drinking a beer?
Yeah, dude. His name is Chuggo. We have a variety of network specific. You can get just a DNVR logo shirt. Again, I don't want you to get pinched. I don't know what else to do.
You've done all you can.
I've
done all I can. So you can go to our website, and the rest is up to you.
All right, let's roll through some super chat. Shall you vote?
Carrot Hammer.
Hell yeah.
Statement week falls to Malone as well, for sure.
I mean, it's a whole team, man. Everybody's on the clock.
Remind them.
Jay, random question. Does Luka in LA make a Serbia-Slovenia international game more or less likely? Enjoy the spring Monday, everyone, before.
Good question.
That is a good question, man. Maybe more?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I said more. History Channel 5280. What's the worst thing I can call someone in the chat without getting blocked? Some homies in the Celtics watch along had me wondering, which was a lot of fun, by the way.
We got to do more coming up. We'll get more of these going, man. We have big plans for that.
We do have big plans.
Big.
They're big.
They're so big. They're more of them.
Janny Munson, I thought thoughts on what best rotation is without Julian. We talked about this earlier, guys. I like pairing CB, Russ, Zeke to Yoke because they seem most dependent. Maybe Maul, Piwa, MPJ, AG, DJ when Yoke sits.
Yeah, I mean,
just talking about bringing Peyton.
This has been the question the entire season, dude. Who is the bench? We don't even know that yet.
I just know Pickett plays well there, buddy. It's right now. That's all I'm seeing.
Number 4 on the list.
Number 4, 3, two-way players.
Move it up.
I've never been more hyped with my homies for a box out.
That was so
Maybe
dope,
the fellas
man.
like, yeah, dude.
They needed it desperately. They were
box
killing them with these secondary jerseys.
Glue guy.
I was like, I am in.
He came running as far as he could.
Kyle Heckman, yo, D-line. Thanks for the pick the other night, big dog.
Hey, listen, man.
You sent him picks?
Listen, man. I came in. I gave out clean sweep.
Yeah. Game picks.
And it says P-I-C-K. That's not how you spell picks.
What kind of picks were you setting, man? I didn't know.
Sweatpant picks. Yeah. Sweat picks, dude. Anyone wants sweat picks, come to my DMs.
So I apologize. Kale, outro music. Get us out of here before we get canceled, shall you? Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We are off tomorrow, although there is a Nuggets practice, so stay tuned. Maybe there's some mini pod or something like that goes up. And then Wednesday, we're all back at it. Go hop on right now and buy tickets to our takeover, which is this Friday. Come hang out with us. That's where you pay money to hang out with us.
And I'll send out those sweat pics. Also buy St. Patrick stuff. Okay,
hit that like button on the way out.
We all silly like the mayor.